Hello, welcome back to another ramble. Today, I wanted to tell the story of Rap League, how it came to be, and how it kind of took a permanent hiatus. Rap League was this game that me and a few of my friends made around sophomore year of high school. Basically, what happened was we were kind of degenerates, right? We would sit in study hall and try to do anything but study. Needless to say, our Spanish teacher, who was our study hall teacher as well, did not like the fact that we were trying to gamble all class period instead of get ahead on our homework. So, our Spanish teacher was cracking down on our tomfoolery. And she was like, you have to do something educational, right? You have to do something creative. And so we were like, okay, cool. And our response was to start gambling with Uno cards and speaking Spanish. But after maybe 2 games of that, she was like, no more cards. Because she knew that, unless she said that explicitly, we were just going to play cards anyway. So I was sitting at home and I was thinking, I was like, man, how am I going to spend an hour and a half every other day if I'm not allowed to gamble? And so I was thinking, I was like, man, what does everybody like? What is something creative that we could do? And I was like, oh, fantasy football. Like, I love fantasy football. Why don't we just do a fantasy dynasty or something like that? And then I was thinking, well, not everybody in this group loves fantasy football or even likes football, So what is something we all like? And I settled on rap music because we were all a bunch of teenagers living in South Florida. I mean, that's where our heads were at. So I messaged one of my good friends, DK, and I said, I have this idea. I'm not sure exactly how to work. And he loved it. He stayed up and he drafted all the rules. And the next day we went to study hall and we said, hey boys, I have something that just came across my desk. I need to know what you guys think. And everybody was kind of down with it. So that day, we started the first Rap League draft. And essentially, the rules go like this. Rap League is essentially fantasy football, but for rappers. Each person will draft a team of 8 to 10 players, right? And there will be head-to-head matchups. So, say there's 6 people, 2 people are going against each other, the other 4 people will judge the song. And how we get the song is by shuffling their entire discography on Spotify. So, it was kind of random in that aspect, right? It wasn't like, oh, I can just pick this person and pick this song, kind of like how you would in an aux battle. It had some level of RNG to it. You wanted to pick somebody who, maybe was more consistent rather than not. And the idea was pretty simple, right? We had the 5 categories where things were graded and you would have a total score out of 50. And then I think we moved it to 25 because everybody likes to just rate things 7s for some reason. And so that was kind of that. We started doing a draft and I remember it being a lot of fun. So after a few weeks, word of mouth is traveling and it's not like we were niche or micro celebrities or anything like that, like far from it. We were just some losers who were playing a game. But word of mouth was traveling and other people were like, man, like I want to do this. Like, when can we do this with you guys? And so I was thinking about that and I was like, man, you guys aren't in our study hall, so we can't include you. But I'd love to include people in this and I'd love to see where we could take things. So fast forward a little bit to senior year, which was when COVID was, I guess, in full swing. We were all sort of tired of just playing Warzone all day and ignoring our classes. So once the Among Us phase kind of died out, we were like, hey, what if we brought back Rap League? And we just did it over Discord. which was a lot of fun. Again, I think it was our third or fourth time doing it, and we had a bunch of people joining in, and it was a lot of fun. But it kind of died out after that one season. Fast forward a couple years later, and we're all in about sophomore year of college, and one of my other buddies, who I had told the idea to, he loved it, and he was like, we should do that. That would be so much fun. My other buddy was trying to go to school for something tech related, and he was like, what if we made an app? What if we did this? What if we did that? And I was like, guys, you're taking this way too far, right? First of all, you're somebody who never follows through on anything. So I'm gonna call him out by my name. Dante, bad idea, bro. Terrible idea, Dante. And then my other friend, Elby, shares with me that he likes to do YouTube. He likes to edit things and make videos, and he showed me some of his stuff, and it seemed pretty good, actually. And so we pitched the idea of maybe doing a Rap League YouTube channel, and we did. Yeah, I'll put a link up, actually, if anyone wants to look at old Rap League content. So we did a whole season. We did a whole season of Rap League, and we recorded all these videos. I learned how difficult it was to get 8 people together at one time, once a week. And I also learned how difficult it is to have 8 people talking over one another and trying to cut up content and try to find a story and compress 2 hours of recording into a 15-minute video, which in the moment seemed annoying, but I kind of loved it. And that's kind of where the interest to start this channel kind of came from, was because I enjoyed having something like that to do. I enjoyed looking back on these things with my friends, and for this channel, I hope to look back on it fondly for myself. It'll be kind of like a time capsule, I would imagine, after a certain point. So the YouTube channel wasn't really wildly successful or anything like that, but we had a ton of fun with it. I look back on these videos now pretty fondly. I mean, the first few are a little rough, but I think we really hit our groove towards the latter end. So we finished recording all of season 1, and I finished cutting up all of the content. I finished making all of the storylines. My buddy Elby, who I don't know if I name dropped him yet or not, but my friend Elby, the editing guy, is really good at what he does, but he's also a procrastinator. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to put out multiple seasons. I wanted to keep this going because I enjoyed it. It was the one thing during the week that I really, really looked forward to. I tried to learn how to edit the way that he did, but I just could not do what he does. I really thought that the videos were very entertaining, but he just wasn't fast enough. So I started trying to look at outside sources to edit in a similar style to him, to kind of alleviate some of this pressure, because I understand that he was in college too, and maybe the Rap League YouTube channel wasn't his most important responsibility, put it that way. So this is where Chris comes in. Now, Chris was a coworker of mine, one of the nicest guys I'd ever met. And after getting his phone number for work purposes, I saw a Twitch stream come up on his TikTok account because it was linked to his phone number, and TikTok likes to do that thing of like, oh, you might know this person. And I was like, oh man, that sounds like Chris. And after like snooping on his profile pretty much, I noticed that he was doing things like that, and he was editing, and I pulled him aside at work the next day, and I was like, dude, I think I ran across your channel, like, I like what you're doing. I also do a little bit of something like that. I basically told him about Rap League, and I wanted to know if he was open to the idea of editing for us. I'd like to pay you to do it. Now, even though Chris loved the idea, he was like, I don't really know. He was just being kind of reluctant, right? Which makes sense. And he was like, yeah, I'll definitely check it out, which usually means I'm not going to check this thing out. But he was a nice guy, and that's the kind of thing you do. And because he was such a nice guy, he actually did go and check it out. Chris loved the idea of Rap League so much that he said, "Don't pay me. Just let me be a member." I said, "Great. I don't have to pay this guy, and he'll do some awesome editing work. This is a win-win for everybody involved." Right? I brought him to the guys, and it was a little awkward at first because he didn't know all of them. He ended up being a solid piece of Rap League. Now, I was also dreaming in my own head, and I may have had a little bit of greed. Now, Chris was a little bit awkward. I won't lie. There was something a little bit off about him, but I just viewed him as a little socially awkward. I just viewed him as, oh, he's such a nice guy. You know, our friend group can be a little crude at times. Maybe he's just not fully comfortable with all of that yet. You know, anytime you're entering a new group, you're kind of on edge. So I didn't really think much of it. I also learned that Chris was a bit of a procrastinator as well. And I would message him and be like, "Hey, have you gotten a chance to look at this yet?" And a week would go by and he'd respond and he'd give me some sort of excuse about how he was super busy, which I was very understanding of. And that was just kind of that. So, we're still editing season 1, right? I think we have most of the videos out by now. We started filming season 2. So, after editing those 2.5 hour, 3 hour recording sessions into a 10 or 15 minute video, all I was waiting on was for Chris and Elvie to edit. Elvie was super busy, probably procrastinating again, or maybe he was on vacation because it was summertime. But there was more of a heavy reliance on Chris than usual. I would be in a Discord call with him and I'd see that he edited bits and pieces of the second season, but not a full video. So I started texting Chris probably once a week, maybe twice, and nothing. I start messaging him more frequently, and I'm honestly just worried about him. I'm like, "Hey, I don't mean to pressure you, I'm just passionate about this, and I know you are too. Like, let's just catch up, you know, take care of yourself," all those sort of things. And truth be told, I thought of Chris as a friend. Even though I didn't know that much about him, we never hung out outside of work. We'd just play video games occasionally, but other than that, he was just a guy. So Elvie and I are in a call one night, and we kind of have an argument about Rap League because we were kind of running it like a business before it was even close to resembling one. It wasn't a big argument or anything like that, but we were both just frustrated, and we agreed that it was time to call it a night. So Elvie leaves, and kind of like the second he does, my other friend jumps in, who I also used to work with. Right? Now, I am no longer working with Chris anymore. I had actually moved to where I am now, which is in Colorado. And so Alex joins and he's like, "Hey, like, how are you guys doing?" And he doesn't know about this Rap League side project we have going on. He's just saying, "Hey, have you guys heard about Chris?" And immediately my heart drops, right? Because I've been checking in on him for weeks, and it's probably up to a month at this point, and I haven't gotten a response yet. And so I'm assuming the worst. I thought that he died, but he didn't. He was arrested. And he was arrested for soliciting a minor. Now, I don't know all of the details. I haven't spoken to him or heard anything about him since, but it was crazy. It was super jarring in that moment, and even now when I'm talking about it, it is really crazy. So I called Elvie, and I'm like, hey, I need to talk to you. And he's just assuming like that I'm still gonna bring up whatever hill I was trying to die on. But I was like, no, it's serious. Like, it's about Chris. And I tell him, and we are just both shell shocked. We're both sitting there and we're like, what the hell? Right? And I wish I could say that I didn't care for him or that I truly knew something was off, but I can't. And before that night, I just thought that he was a pure and genuinely nice person. You know, reality is hard to accept, and even now, as I talk into a microphone in my dark office, it's even harder, but I do accept it. And I acknowledge that the people close to you can be bad people. The people close to you can be hiding a horrific secret. Now, I'm not saying be weary of your friends. I'm not saying accuse people of hiding something dark and deep. But all I'm saying is that it can happen, and it can blindside you. And it seems like it's kind of the human condition to say, oh, this bad thing can't happen to me. Bad things happen to other people. Other people have X, Y, and Z happen to them. But if I do it, I'll be fine. You kind of have this sort of main character syndrome, which I think is a funny way to put it. And I'm trying to keep that in mind. You know, as I get older, I realize that I'm not bulletproof. I realize that things upset me, and I realize that my entire perception can be flipped on its head in a moment's notice. And I think that's okay, and I think it's all part of life. I don't really know what has happened to Chris. All I know is that he was a part of Rap League Season 2, and we deleted everything. And it's kind of tainted this thing that has been really special in my life. But I think that that's a small price to pay, because obviously other things were happening to other people that is much worse than losing a YouTube channel. So yeah, that is the Rap League story. I hope you enjoyed. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and thank you for listening to another ramble.
He's fucking useless. Why wouldn't you? I think you would have killed him if you didn't use Solar Strike.
That's on me.
At least you can't. Yeah.
I hit him 18 times here.
Oh dear God! 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 Please tell me the block saves you. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why did you do that? Why did you do that? Why did you do that? What are you doing? Oh, you can only take. I'm an idiot. No.
I did that for aura purposes.
Fuck you.